So again, this week we're going to do something a little different. We're actually releasing this next episode in 2 different parts. We were going over all of the propositions to amend the Texas State Constitution, and there are a lot of them, and it went kind of long. So what you're about to listen to is part 1 of our 2-part series about the propositions to amend the state constitution. This is Alamo Anthem, where we, the overtaxed, remember our liberty. Direct from the forgotten countryside outside of Alamo City, San Antonio. Welcome to the show, Emily, Michelle. How you doing today?
Good.
Well,
Did you guys like that solar eclipse yesterday?
Is it a solar eclipse or?
yeah, it
annual?
was.
Lunar, solar? I don't know. It
Is
involves both the Luna and the Sol.
Did you see the Ring of Fire? Were you guys able to see that?
We did, because we had those glasses, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're able to use them. We could hardly see anything in Divine. It was so cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
I was mad.
Too bad.
Waste of $1.50. We didn't even use the glasses. That's how cloudy it was. We just looked up.
You're not supposed to do that.
Well, if you put the glasses on, it was just black. Couldn't even see it. So.
You can use them next year. It's supposed to be a better
Oh,
eclipse.
that's right.
April.
Yeah. The big one, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I look forward to it.
All right.
Well, I think today we're getting closer to the time of the election, so we should spend the majority of our conversation today about talking about what's going to be on the ballots, the constitutional amendments. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and I think that will be good for our listeners, so they will know a little bit about when and how to vote. Not meaning we tell them how to vote, but what's going to be on the ballot, so they can make a informed decision themselves.
Based on what we tell you. Our information.
Not really, Joe. Come on. And then we're going to read some feedback from our next door listeners. So,
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
Already getting feedback.
I know. I'm really happy about that. So,
Yeah, welcome to episode 3.
yeah. All right. So, first of all, I wanted to tell our listeners about what's going on the November 7th, 2023 constitutional amendment election. So I wanted them to know that early voting starts October 23rd to the 27th. So pretty much coming up really quick. And election day is November 7th, a Tuesday, which it usually is on a Tuesday. And then the early voting locations are at Medina County Courthouse Annex, which is in Hondo, Medina County Precinct 2 Annex Building, which is in Castroville, Medina County Precinct 4 Annex, which is in Divine. Okay. And then on election day, people can go to Hondo Public Library, South Texas Regional Training Center, which is in Hondo, Medina County Precinct 2 Annex Building, which is in Castroville, and Medina County Precinct 4 Annex Building.
And if they don't know where those are, they can just Google it, right?
Well, and I will put the Facebook Medina County Texas Elections Office Facebook page on our show notes this week. Also, D'Hanis, am I saying that right? D'Hanis. I can never say it right. The community center is also doing the election day elections, and First Baptist Church in Natalia is also doing it. And is it Miko or Miko? Miko Volunteer Fire Department is doing the election on election day at their facility. So.
Sorry, did you say what the deadline was to register?
It's over. They were supposed to be registered. We said that last time.
I think it was October 10th.
Yeah, October 10th was the last.
So if you're not registered, just forget it.
Better luck next time. Okay, so let's starting with the ballots. I just wanted to point out a couple things to the town of Natalia and Divine and Utopia all have things besides the constitutional amendments on the ballot. So like for Divine, this is important for people that live in Divine. There is a school bond that you're going to vote for Divine ISD, which will increase property taxes. Even says so on the thing. The other one is Natalia has a city council election. They call it alderman. You guys know that? Have you ever heard that term? Alderman? Yeah.
Yeah, city alderman.
Why do they have to do that? Why don't they just say it's a city council member?
I
They're
think
trying to all sound official.
Yeah, it depends on the way that each city has it set up.
Yeah, so they have that election in Natalia, and it's between Darren Frazier, Roberta Ruby C. Vera, and Valerie Michelle Naff. So, Natalia, you need to find out who these people are and get to know who your candidates are. And then last but not least is the area of Utopia. And that one is also school bond. So, okay. Everywhere else, Medina County is just the constitutional amendments. Hondo, just the constitutional amendments. Castroville, just the constitutional amendments.
Good
Okay?
to know.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle. That was a great rundown.
Yeah. So the first amendment that they're trying to put forward, I think, is interesting. It is the amendment protecting the right to engage in farming, ranching, timber production, horticulture, and wildlife management. That kind of speaks for itself, don't you think?
Well, I wonder how they aim to protect it.
Right.
Do we know?
It doesn't say. It's just you're either for the protection of and the right to engage in farming. I'm wondering if like in our town in Devine, they have restrictions of what, how many animals we can have, and if this will lift some of the restrictions. Like right now in Devine, I know you can only have 12 chickens, regardless of how much property you have. If you're in the city limits, you can only have 12 chickens. Now we have a couple acres, and so we can have just as many as someone would, like, just, a neighborhood in the suburban neighborhoods, like a quarter acre lot. They can have just as many as we have. So I wonder if that will lift that, or if it will just, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, it looks like to me that it's kind of like an amendment like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, right? Mm-hmm. And so when it says that it has the right, establishes the right to farming, ranching, and timber production, horticulture, and wildlife management in the Texas Constitution, I've just read that, farmers associations are in favor of this. So, like, stressing, non-production farmers, like private-owned farms, which is like 97% of the farms in Texas are privately owned small farms. And the idea behind it is...
What's small?
I guess, like, not commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could... Because my understanding is that even people with like 100 acres or several hundred acres is still considered small.
Right. Maybe small. Maybe that was something that I put in there. But the idea is to, from what I've read, is to protect them from regulatory overreach.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
There's already laws about animal cruelty and that sort of thing. And so we don't need a regulatory body to come in and make sure that everybody's doing what they've done for hundreds of years here. So.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we have friends who have small farms, and when you see all of the expenses incurred just to, be able to do anything, like sell any food that they produce or anything like that, because of the regulations, this sounds like a good thing, right? If it can cut back on that so that they can at least make enough money to do what they're doing.
Yeah, if nothing else, it kind of, I think, it says, it gives someone to point to and says, hey, look, in the Texas Constitution, I have a right to farm. Mm-hmm. I have a right to farm. I have a right to do these things. And so you can't take that away from me,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the next one is Prop 2 states the constitutional amendment authorizing a local option exemption. So it's an exemption from ad valorem taxation, I know I'm saying that wrong, by a county or a municipality of all or part of the appraised value of real property used to operate child care facility.
I wonder if what will happen is that everywhere will become a daycare.
I know.
Which, I mean...
We're running the daycare right here. In our house, there are 4 boys.
I mean, I'm always for, less property taxes, but I'd like it for everyone. I don't know if I like the idea of it becoming like just another group of people who
get to be exempted.
Yeah, get to exempt while the county and city and school district continue to demand the same amount or more but now there's fewer of us paying it.
Right,
So
exactly.
That kind of bugs me a little bit.
I think that every cut in taxes or new exemption should come with it some understanding of how the government is then going to spend less, rather than what you said of passing, the same costs on to everybody else.
Yeah, and those running daycares, they're going to have to charge people more for their daycare. That will, don't you think? Because that's part of the expenses.
Yeah, and then I think the next step after that would be more people in favor of longer school days. Not to always back to the same topic, but it's all connected.
So the way that I'm reading it online is they're even framing it as, if this passes, then it will cost the state, $355 million, meaning that they don't plan on cutting spending at all. They just say they were just going to have to tax other people for it.
Prop 3, the constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual wealth or net worth tax, including a tax on the difference between the assets and liabilities of an individual or family.
On Ballotpedia, it talks a little bit about Proposition 3, and it kind of puts it in the same category as like an income tax. And it does mention that no state has ever adopted a wealth tax in this way. And that as far as who is for it and against it, all Republican legislators voted in favor of this amendment to prohibit this type of tax. I know that in the past I've heard some commentators talking about a wealth tax, and basically one of the problems with it is that if you own, let's say, a family farm, right, that you inherited, and then they say, oh, well, this is worth, $1 million or $2 million or whatever. So then every year you're getting taxed on that, and beyond, just your property taxes. But, let's say there's like a business on it or whatever. But basically that's saying because you have this much wealth, then that's how much you get taxed on. And a lot of businesses, which would also be part of that wealth, they would say, well, this business, if you were to sell it, is worth $5 million. But even the percentage of taxes, like, you wouldn't be able to come up with every year, because your operating costs and everything just to run that business is not counted as part of that wealth. It's just saying, well, if you just sold it, how much would it be worth?
So it sounds like it's the same problem as the property tax, which is the nature of it is that you're being taxed over and over and over and over and over again on something that you don't realize.
Right.
Realize in the economic technical sense.
Yeah, and it's
whereas with the sales tax, for example, if you buy something, you pay the tax one time when you buy it, and then that's it, and then you get to enjoy the thing that you bought. But the property tax, it's every single year if you want to keep living in your own.
It's rent. It sounds like rent.
It does sound
rent
like
on your wealth.
It's on your own wealth, even though you're not making money on it necessarily. But even if you were, it's still yours.
Yeah, I never thought of it as rent until somebody said it once, like, we are renting. Maybe it was you that said it, Emily. It was brilliant, Emily.
I mean, I like
I'm sure it was me.
say, like,
It was
we're leasing our land from the government. The government owns all land.
And what's interesting is that our founders would be rolling in their graves right now. Like, they fought a war over tea tax. And look at how much taxes we pay on everything. Everything. Think about it. From the, buying a car, filling up the fuel that goes in that car, registering the car. Well, that's the same thing, I guess. Buying items at a store, personal property. So you got your sales tax, you got your property tax, you got your income tax. I remember when we bought our first house in Texas, in San Antonio, and the mortgage was $900 a month. And I believe the taxes were like $300 back then. And you wouldn't believe how much we're paying now in our other houses. It's like doubled. Now, granted, our houses are bigger. When I say houses, one of them is a rental. So it's not really, houses, as if I have all these houses.
Vacation houses.
It's not a vacation house. But the point is, I cannot believe the increase in 20 years of, it's not even been 20 years. It's like 15 years. Texas, what drives me crazy is we were looking forward to moving here because we knew we'd have freedom. We were like, oh, let's move to Texas. And Texans pride themselves in being the free state. Like, they brag about their conservative values. The Second Amendment is is so, when people think of the Second Amendment, what do they think of? What state?
Texas.
It's Texas, but I'll tell you what, some other states have just as much Second Amendment rights and have less property taxes than Texas. And so my point is, I feel like Texans need to stop bragging about that. Stop calling yourself a conservative state unless you're really willing to put your money where your mouth is and go back to your original, traditional values of, land ownership, property ownership, and less government. That's all I want to say. I'm going to get off my soapbox now. But it really was kind of disappointing to come back and see how much the government is taking and how less rights that we have. One of those things is school, in a way. Not to say there's so much freedom with education in Texas. I didn't have to really do anything to pull my kids out of school here. But when you're in, I feel like you're in school. And they have truant officers. If your kids if they miss 3 days, oh my gosh, it's like the end of the world.
It's just like I've only been pulled over once since we've lived in Texas. And it was because I had forgotten to put the sticker on the windshield that proves that I, paid my taxes, right? To be able to drive. And I think of truancy officers like that. It's like, what are all the things like if you have an organization that makes money from taxes, well, what are they going to enforce? First and foremost, that you pay your taxes, right? That's what a truancy officer is, because they don't get paid if your kid isn't there. Like the more days that they're not there, the less they get paid.
That's true. So they need that money. They need you there. You got to be there. All right, you've got the fourth proposition, Emily.
The fourth one is the big one that everyone's been waiting for. It's the raising the homestead exemption amount from $40,000 to $100,000.
Okay, yeah, let's listen to that excerpt. So I think this clip that we're about to hear is a woman explaining this proposition, but she explains it really well. So let's listen to her.
Hi, I'm Callie with the League of Women Voters of Texas. On November 7th, there will be an election covering several proposed changes to the Texas Constitution. One of these proposed changes is Proposition 4. Proposition 4 would amend the Texas Constitution to allow tax cuts that were approved by the legislature in the 2023 special session to take effect this year. Proposition 4 allows the legislature to reduce the property taxes as followed. 1. The homestead exemption would increase from $40,000 to $100,000. The homestead exemption is the amount of appraised value of a primary residence that is not subject to tax by the local school district. 2. The increase in the appraised value for a non-homestead property, such as a business property or a second home, cannot be more than 20% over the prior year's appraised value. Note that only non-homestead properties with a value of $5 million or less qualify at this time, and this non-homestead property tax limit expires December 31st of 2026.
About that, the one that she just talked about, that for anyone who doesn't know already, as it is right now, only your homestead exemption, your primary property, has any limitation on how much they can raise your taxes in any given year. So right now, for your homestead, it's 10% per year. So even though they may claim that your house is worth far more than 10% more than the previous year, they'll put that on there, but then they'll just keep raising it the full 10% each year until they get to that whatever super high level is that they claim that it is. But as of now, there's never been any limitation on your non-homestead properties. So if you have like a second house that you rent out or something like that, they can raise it as much as they want every year.
All right, you're saying that there's a cap on how much they can raise it, or there's no cap?
As it is right now, there's only a percentage cap on how much they can raise it per year on your homestead, and no other properties that you may own.
So now this amendment is now putting a cap on the non-homestead.
20%.
Correct. Yep. So for your homestead, it's 10%, and then for any other properties that you have, the cap would be 20% higher per year.
So the first point in this proposition is to increase the exemption from $40,000 to $100,000 on the homestead. The second point has to do with non-homestead properties, which would limit the increase of taxes by 20% over last year's value.
Until 2026.
Until 2026.
And then it expires.
Correct.
Okay, let's keep going.
The legislature has approved spending money to school districts to replace lost revenue Proposition 4 would allow this money to be sent without counting towards spending limits in the Constitution. And 4, currently members of local appraisal boards are all appointed. Proposition 4 allows the legislature to require that in counties with a population of 75,000 or more, 3 of the 9 members of the board must be elected.
So this part is talking about the county assessors, that they aren't elected officials. This new provision, or this new proposition, is making 3 of the 9 people in the assessor's office elected officials.
The appraisers?
The appraisers office, sorry. And it has to be in counties with a population of 75,000 or more, which our county would not qualify. We're at 51,900.
That is really unfortunate.
It is.
Because can you imagine if the county appraisers needed to be elected? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it would just be a huge deal. Because
they have to face their constituents.
Right. There would
when
be
they're doing
some sort of friction, for them. Something to slow them down.
One thing I wanted to know, and she does a good job, because I noticed the language that she's reading is slightly different than what that bill actually reads, is that so there's associations that give readability scores to different amendments and ballot actions, and this by one association was scored at grade level 19, and another association said grade level 18. So it's a very difficult amendment to read, proposition. And that's very unfortunate, because it is, when you read it, we've read it several times over, it is very difficult to understand.
My understanding is, if you want the tax break, if you want the homestead exemption, vote for it. Well, that's why I'm voting for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I'm worried about is that there's so many, there seems to be so many caveats in it that it makes it, it kind of makes me doubt how much of a difference it's going to make.
We'll see.
How much it's just going to
I think
placate.
that it will make an immediate positive difference. My question is, what in the long run are they going to be able to do because of all the squirrely stuff towards the end of the proposition? If you read it, a little bit more, that's like there's all these double negatives in there and it's hard to understand. I don't know what they mean by it. No matter how many times I read it, I just still don't know exactly what they mean. And so I don't understand why they're putting it in there. Seems to me like there's some sort of advantage that it's going to give the state bureaucracy. I just don't know what it is.
Right.
I did want to read one of the comments from one of our people that listened from next door that is relevant to this, I feel like. Her name is Rosalinda Romo. She's from Natalia. And she said, I just listened to your podcast. I live in Natalia and I'm happy someone is doing a local podcast for our area.
Oh, nice.
I know, it was really nice. I homeschooled both my kids all the way to graduation and am done now with one college graduate and the other attending UTSA at this time. I would not have had it any other way. I found a way to work from home. I am not anti-public school either, but the schools need much improvement. Property taxes are outrageous. I went to protest, but that did not help much. I'm nearing retirement, and it scares me that I may be taxed out of the home that I've lived in and expected to stay in my whole adult life. And boy, do we have border issues. I now have to carry a weapon just to go feed my animals on my own property.
Mm.
And I think Rosalinda is saying the same thing that a lot of people are thinking, It's like there's real fear. And we saw it at the MTA meeting that we went to, where they're trying to get tax relief for seniors, is that, it's scary. It's scary that, it's just by living in the same house that you were before with a fixed income, that you're going to have to downsize. Sell it and get something smaller.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important that the listeners look at these amendments and think about them carefully and make sure we start getting more involved. Well, so the next one this is 5, the constitutional amendment relating to the Texas University Fund, which provides funding to certain institutions of higher education to achieve national prominence as major research universities and drive the state economy.
No.
Yep. Absolutely not. I don't think that any government dollars ever should go into any education we all already know that it goes into K through 12, and look at what the education is. How much do they spend talking about limitations on government, constitutional limitations, or how it all works, or anything, or even just like very practical knowledge that's really going to help kids? And how much do they talk about other things that we wish they wouldn't talk about, right? So that's just K through 12. But I don't know if everyone knows that universities also get tons of money. And then, I mean, have you ever known someone who went to a university and came back with ideas that you thought, what? We're paying for this? But
Yeah.
it's because everything that government touches, it corrupts.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at studies that show that the quality of K through 12 education has just gone down significantly over the years. But over the last 30 or 40 years, the real spending, not the inflated, but the inflation adjusted, the real spending on K through 12 education has tripled.
And it hasn't improved
And
anything.
and it's gotten much worse. I mean, you talk to people.
They just keep throwing more money at it.
Yeah. So that doesn't make it better, A. And the more that it's involved with higher education, we're not going to expect it to get better. But the other thing that I really want to say about it is that I have not been impressed with the information, the studies coming out of higher education. But even if you concede that the research is very important and a lot of it, scientific discovery, like some of it can be. But the problem that I have with that is that you're using taxed dollars, meaning money that you take from people, giving it to universities, and they use it to, sometimes they research good things, sometimes not. You don't have any control over that. And then if it does produce something that is marketable, that's going to help people out, then a private patent gets put on it, and then companies make that money. That's how the pharmaceutical companies work.
Yeah, why
Seems
don't
really unfair.
they do their own? Well, then that's conflict of interest. I was going to say,
And
why
they
don't they
do.
pay for Yeah, they do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just seems like a corrupt system that I don't want to support
Okay.
anymore.
So I would like to bring up a short list of propositions that the Texas Realtors are in favor of.
Okay.
Okay, so the Texas Realtors Association are, of course, going to be in favor of things that benefit them, which is private property rights, right? And people being able to pay for property. That's how they make money. So, having that in mind. So they are in favor of Proposition 1, which is, we talked about
The farm.
protect the right to farm. Proposition 4, provide property tax relief. That's the one we just spent a while on. 6, establishes the Texas Water Fund. 7, establishes the Texas Energy Fund. And 8, establishes the Broadband Infrastructure Fund. Those 3 last ones, 6, 7, and 8, so water, energy, I assume electricity, and internet, of course, it would make it so that more people would want to come and buy houses, buy property, and live here. I mean, we have... there's a lot of areas, especially like out, I don't know, well, just anywhere remote, internet is always a question, I mean, I know a lot of people have been able to work remotely out there if they have Starlink, right? But not everybody has it. And I've heard there's like waiting lists for it and stuff like that. So, I mean, to me, those 3, that improving the infrastructure is a double-edged sword, where on the one hand, yeah, we'd love the convenience, but on the other hand, everything won't stay, I mean, traffic will increase and just more people means all that comes with that. So,
Well,
it's a give and take.
I'll go ahead and just do Proposition 9, and then we almost got them all done. And that is the Constitution Amendment authorizing the 88th legislature to provide a cost of living adjustment to certain annuitants of the teacher retirement system of Texas. So they would have cost of living adjustment to their retirement, so they'd get more money.
Do you see how circular this is? The answer for the government is always to spend more. You see, the problem, the reason why they need more money is because the cost of living is going up, in particular with regards to things like housing, right?
Yeah.
But housing in Texas is very much unaffordable because of property taxes.
That's really why. It's the property taxes that make it unaffordable.
Right,
And
so
the
if they-
interest rates, I will say that too, but it's mostly
sure,
the
but
property
if they're
taxes.
retiring, interest rates shouldn't be the thing. They've already bought their home. They're not like buying a new home now
That's right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's just to stay in the one that they already have got. So if they just lower the property tax, we don't have to spend even more money and tax everybody else more to pay for more, like a higher, you know what I mean?
Retirement bonuses and stuff.
Right. It's just
Yeah.
out of it. It's a,
Yeah, it's a good
what did you
point,
call
Emily.
it, Joe? A self-licking ice cream cone? Is that what this is?
look, I feel for the teachers that are retired, and everybody that's retired, but I think that this is part of the problem as well, where everybody else, they have their retirements set based on the employment that they gained, their Social Security, and whatever else they've been able to kind of finagle. And I don't think it should be a different situation for teachers or other government employees when they retire, because it's, that's what was negotiated. That's what they got. And we can't go to the ballot box and say, hey, I retired from Ford. I want cost of living increases from Ford. So I'm going to vote in my local state election to make sure that they do that. It's putting the burden on everyone else. And we as voters, I mean, it's our money versus what they want. We're negotiating their pay, right? And so I say, no, that cutting costs is what they need to do. They don't need to be increasing costs. And that's what this would be.
So I'm with you guys. I don't feel like everyone, I don't think retired teachers should get any
special
treatment.
Yeah.
We all are having the struggles. We all are having a cost of living crisis.
Right. And the other thing is, like, if you are going to placate a certain segment of the population to say, well, we'll make sure that everything will be okay as inflation goes up, then it makes you unconcerned with inflation. And everybody should be screaming about inflation. But to say, well, these active voters will make sure to take care of them and their retirements, then that seems like it's a conflict of interest.
Right.
It's like buying votes.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think Emily's right. It is somewhat circular.
I mean, I know this is kind of what you were just saying, Joe, but I just feel like it's important enough to...
I'm sure you could say it better.
Just that anyone who's worked and then, you retire and then you have some sort of annuities, as they're called, right? Isn't that what that was called? Where you, like a pension or whatever. If you then become dissatisfied with it later, you can't just go and, I mean, that's like mob rule. You can't just get together with everybody who's dissatisfied with it and then go, hey, you know what? I want all you guys to pay more money so that I have more in my retirement because I don't like it. It's not good enough anymore because of all these other problems that have occurred. I mean, that's crazy to just take it from your neighbors.
Yeah. And why this group,
Instead of all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, well, it's favoring one group over another, but we're all hurting here.
Right.
All right, we'll just go on, right? We got a little time left.
Please go on.
So, yeah. Proposition 10 is...
Oh, wait, we're still doing more of the propositions?
Yeah, why not? We're almost there, so...
Okay.
The last ones are kind of easy, I think.
Yeah.
The next one is 10, and this one is the constitutional amendment to authorize the legislator to exempt from the Valarum taxation equipment or inventory held by a manufacturer of biomedical products to protect the Texas healthcare network and strengthen our medical supply chain. It's just it's basically giving them an exemption from tax.
No.
So they should have to pay tax on the medical equipment?
Yeah, just like everybody.
Okay.
My feeling is that the healthcare system already is super entwined with government and money and spending. I don't like the idea of it being even more mixed up with it. And I don't like the product that it's produced, and it seems, well, I should mostly just keep my mouth shut on my opinions on some of this, but I think it seems like it's becoming more robotic because it's all mixed up with it.
Yeah, and I think so. There's some serious red flags in there for me. One being the idea of protecting the supply of certain things, right? And so I'll give you just a separate example. We have a bunch of laws and regulations in this country regarding protecting, food, like making sure that we have like a steady supply of food. But what that means is that it increases the cost of food because we could only buy food from certain farmers in certain states. And we can't import it for cheaper. But this is done supposedly to protect our supply. But what it really means is that it's protecting companies. And when it also, a red flag for me is saying, this network, that makes it sound to me like it's only certain people. right? That only, like, if you're registered with whatever this medical network is, then you'll be able to, like, benefit from it. And my thought always is, if something is important enough and if the public really wants it, you don't need to protect it. You don't need to give subsidies to it.
Mm-hmm.
People will want it, and then they'll pay for it.
So, I don't know if this is off topic, but are you saying that you're not in favor of regulating, for example, beauty hair licenses and stuff like that, Joe?
I'm vehemently against occupational licensing in general.
But what do you think? I mean, don't you think something bad could happen if someone went and got a haircut from somebody who didn't have a license and all the regulatory training involved?
Well, generally speaking, I think that when the government gets involved with protecting something, it makes it worse. So I think that the result in this will that people will be uglier. So you will not get more beauty; you'll get more ugly.
Do you think this is behind the mullet coming back from the 80s to get us?
Those are fighting words for some people.
I'm just kidding. I've come around. I'm fine with it.
Well,
You're fine with a mullet?
You know, I don't judge.
Well, my first boyfriend had a mullet until from the time, let's see, it was 1980.
You're feeling some nostalgia.
I am. He's good looking.
that mullet.
Anyway, it used to bug me though, because 1988 came and went, still had it, and it was starting to go out of style at this point. 1989 came and went, still had it, and it was really long. 1990, 1991. So he kept that mullet until, I kid you not, 94. I'm like, hey, come on, man, it's out. It's out. But he had this really black hair, and it was very thick.
Well, one thing, we talk
just
about.
Gonna dismiss my boyfriend story like that. Like, anyway.
That was great. Anyway, well, we have some family members, Emily and I do, that are in the beauty business in another state, and it is interesting when you talk to them about how, these are things we can do, these are things that we can't do. So like eyebrow threading, and there's some places where that's all they do, but you need to go through, years of beauty school in order to be able to do everything in order to do that. And what it really does is it makes it so people that are already experts at that are unable to practice unless they go through an expensive licensure process. And oftentimes we talk about immigration on this show, that they're, immigrants that have these certain beauty practices that they've brought with them, and they do a really good job and it gets integrated into our culture. But then we turn around and say, well, actually, you can't do this, where the rest of us can.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the state bureaucracy saying, hey, you're making a lot of money there. A little too much.
Yeah.
We need a piece of that.
You need to go through these safety beauty training things.
Be a shame if somebody came and shut your business down.
All right. To sum up, your opinion on Prop 10 is that the medical industry should not get special treatment for their supply and the exemption from taxes. Basically what I get from you
I
guys.
think I couldn't be more against that one.
Okay.
Personally.
All right. And by the way, you don't have to agree with Emily. Vote the way you believe.
Let me tell you
But
another.
Emily
See
would
what
like
happens.
you to agree with her, wouldn't you, Emily?
Let me tell you another example of what happens in the medical industry, and which makes me think that this is something similar. So, in order to open up a new hospital or even to get new equipment at your hospital, you need to obtain a certificate of need. So let's say you want an MRI machine. You need to get one of these certificates of need, which shows that this is actually a needful piece of equipment that is going to serve the people in this area, and that there isn't already enough of that available in the area. The problem is that the council, the people that decide whether or not that need exists, are other hospitals.
What's the excuse for needing this certificate of need in the first place?
I think what it is that you want to make sure that every area has enough access to these different machineries or different hospitals or doctors. So that
you would
like
have more access if you didn't have to get the certificate of need. That sounds like the opposite.
Okay, but let's say that there's a limited supply of high-end machinery that's available because of the companies that make them and how long it takes and the cost and all these things, and that there's a limited supplies of doctors and nurses or whatever. Well, if there's a certain area where they could, maybe they like the clientele, maybe it's where the doctors want to live, they can make more money there, they could just keep on making hospitals or whatever just in one little area, and then people outside of the area wouldn't be served. I think that's the idea behind it.
Well, is there a limited supply?
Well, there's a greater limit to the supply when you put more regulations on something. The way that the free market actually works is that if you are going into business for yourself, you look for a place that has customers but does not have services.
So you're saying if people have their own money on the line and their own livelihood, they might do some sort of, what would you call it, like market research or something like that ahead of time to figure out if that's something that they can be successful at? That sounds like a huge burden.
Can't you just tell me where to set up my business?
And not allow me to if it's not going to work, and bail me out if it doesn't work.
How about I come up with an idea of where I want to start my business, and then you just tell me if that's a good idea or not?
I think that we're out of time today. So I think we should wrap this up as part 1 of our episode 3, and we'll do a part 2 with the remaining amendments, which are 11, 12, and 13. And then we'll talk about the Blue Santa scandal in the next episode. What do y'all say?
Sounds great. Do we have a fun bit of Nextdoor app business? I know
Besides Rosalinda's?
Okay, we never talk about like shallow, dumb stuff, but I have a question.
We are shallow, dumb people, so it's surprising.
Show our true identity.
What is the deal? I hear all this chatter about Taylor Swift, and she dating some football player or something?
So first of all, do you know who Taylor Swift is?
I like her music. I'm not a fan of her that much, but I like her music a lot.
Emily, do you know who Taylor Swift is?
I do know who Taylor Swift is, and she has one song that I like a lot.
Which one?
I can't remember what it's called.
How does it go? Sing it.
No, I can't sing.
What's it? Is it about bad blood?
No, it's that one.
Is it about shaking
We're
it
never
off?
getting back
Oh
together.
yeah, it's Shake It Off.
Shake
That's
It
what
Off.
it is.
I was like, we're never getting back together.
Yeah,
Never.
I don't know any of her other songs.
she has a lot of breakup songs, right? Yeah, that's kind of her thing. So
Oh, you know about this.
I know all about T-Swizzle. I'm probably the biggest fan at the table, to tell you the
You
truth.
are?
I listen to her,
I
like,
didn't know that.
regularly, somewhat regularly.
You like raging women?
Huh.
Do you?
I think that one of her best songs is Trouble, which is one of the older ones, not as popular. But you know, she used to be a country music performer before she was a gigantic pop, probably the biggest pop star right now. So right now she's dating Travis Kelce.
Who's that?
He is a footballer, a sports baller for the Kansas City.
Kansas City. Wait a minute. I know this. Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes.
Hey, I should get the award this week. I got it right.
Obviously, we're huge football.
We're sports fans.
We're gonna cut some of this out, make ourselves not sound so stupid. Yeah. So she just regularly, like all their games, she's always in the box, and they like, I guess the announcers and all the camera people, they're always like, "All right, let's look at Taylor Swift's reaction to this," right? So just there's a
She
lot
has
of
to do a lot of face acting.
well, I think she's just always on. I mean, she's like a natural performer.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I'd
football.
like to see what she looks like when she's dreaming.
Why?
What?
That's a weird thing to say.
If she's always on,
Oh, I see.
you know, she's like playing it out on
Well,
her
we
face.
saw that video of her when she was after her eye surgery, the LASIK, and she
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
that was all fake.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she really did, but she was performing. Like
But-
you're saying, she's always performing.
She's always
But
on.
what's the hoopla? So what? She's dating him, and
Well, I think some sports fans are annoyed that they're like talking about some pop stars. Like, who cares?
Oh, they just wanna get back to the game.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, there's a bunch of Swifties, I think they're called, people who are fans of Taylor Swift.
Would you consider yourself a Swiftie, Joe?
There's a really good SNL sketch where it was like, for medication when you get vertigo from listening to Taylor Swift, because people are like, I don't like Taylor Swift, and then they hear some of her songs and like, whoa, she's so good, this is a banger.
I do remember that.
But no, I don't consider myself a Swiftie. There's a few songs, like I said, that I like. They're like watching these games because they want to see what's Taylor Swift doing, you know, whatever.
so she's kind of hijacking the sport
So she's like
news. Is that what's going on?
I guess so. I think that's
Yeah.
what annoys
So they're
people.
annoyed. They're like, you already have your Hollywood
Yeah.
musical stuff. Leave the
Isn't it
sports
enough?
out of it.
Isn't
Isn't it
enough?
enough?
Well, Taylor Swift is like a force of nature. Like if she
All right, calm down.
No, but just listen. If she
Yeah.
if she has a concert somewhere, it like the airports change the number of flights that they have to that area. Like, it's
Huh.
crazy. Like, it affects the local economy.
So besides her looks, what else is it?
Her music. I
Her-
think she's talented. I will give her
Yeah,
that.
she's got some, like, there's
You
just-
really think it's just her looks and musical talent?
I think it's her musical talent.
I do think
Wow.
she's talented. Her
Yeah.
guitar skills are really good.
Her
She's
guitar-
a good.
well, I
Is it her
don't know.
dancing?
I don't
No,
think
because
so.
even in that Shake It Off video, she's like making fun of the fact that she doesn't dance very well.
Mhm.
But I think it's just really catchy songs, super
Yeah, they are
catchy
catchy.
songs.
I
Yeah.
admit, I really
She writes
like her
them.
music.
Yeah, but I think it's also just that people like the Instagram generation, they're just really in love with her like personality, right? So I don't know.
I feel so bad because like my kids, I'm such a cynic now when it comes to entertainment, and I really like am such a bummer to watch movies with or even listen to new music. I don't know. I'm more critical now on
Yeah.
the movies I watch.
just
I watched
can't enjoy
way too
yourself.
much. Yeah, I watched way too much entertainment as a youth, and so now it's like I've seen it all. I feel
Yeah.
like and heard it all.
Well,
So
and
it's
you,
hard to impress me, I guess. It seems to me, and we've talked about this before, that they just keep repeating the same stuff. Although I do like Taylor Swift's music, and I do think she's got some originality. But a lot of stuff is just repeats of things we've
Yeah.
already heard and seen. And so my kids, they hate watching movies with me and listening to music. And my daughter, Grace, who's 20, she's always like, Mom, listen to this song. I'm like, stupid song. Like everything she
Yeah.
plays, she's like, you're the worst. And then she's like, all you listen to is old music.
see, I
She's
feel like
right,
I'm
but-
the opposite, where I've heard classic rock music so much that I'm like, I just want something novel. Like, I want something new, even if it's the same formula or whatever, or it's just like the same three chords. I'm just looking for a little bit of novelty
I did
in my
too.
music.
I'm with you on that because I have heard all of classic rock and I love classic rock.
It's not just that he's heard it; it's that
He's played it too.
I mean,
'Cause Joe used to be in a
decades.
band too. I'm sure he
No,
played
I'm not a
stuff.
successful band.
yeah, but it was decades of listening to classic rock,
Yeah.
and I mean, all the time,
Is
You
this
know,
a good?
and it was great.
In the early 2000s.
But you want something new every
Is
now and
this
then.
a good time to bring up the intro and outro music
Yeah,
to this
tell 'em,
podcast?
yeah.
Is from when we
You've
had
been
a band? No, I just came to. I honestly,
Uh-huh.
just, but as long as we're here.
Give a shout out to your buddy too while you're at it.
So my friend Seth, he was the musical genius in our band. We always say that we were just riding his coattails, but it's not like we had a successful band. We played in high school, Battle of the Bands. We recorded an album. We used to play at a restaurant every week. It was a German restaurant that wanted to make sure that we didn't play too loud. It's called the Duck Inn.
They're like, you can come in here, but keep it down.
Yeah.
Well, I am impressed with our intro, our music comes from Joe and Seth and whoever else was in your band. What was your band called?
It was called Bhagwan Bardacci.
Bob.
Don't repeat it. Don't
Bhagwan,
repeat it.
Bhagwan
You won't get it.
Bardacci. There's nothing to get. It's just a silly combination of names.
Okay, aren't we gonna do? Wasn't there a Nextdoor app post that we wanted to do?
Okay, so this is I've seen this reposted a couple times just as a clip kind of meme, but it was posted by Pete Arriaga, and it says, "Would you kindly fix the road I was already taxed to fix, so I am not causing damage to the car I'm taxed annually to drive, which I purchased with income you already taxed, which sits in the driveway of my home that is highly taxed." And there was a lot of, yeah, you're correct.
Is there any comments on that?
Yeah, there's comments on it.
Is
But
there any good ones?
Bradley Price reposted it. "You are exactly correct. We make the mistake of electing individuals who unfortunately think more of their careers than the job they were hired to do." And he goes on to say some other things. But yeah, this was a pretty popular one. Any comments from you guys on
Well,
that?
we've pretty much talked taxation. I think they know
Yeah.
where we are as far
Yeah.
as taxes go.
You guys probably don't know this about us yet, but
We have a,
Yeah,
there's
we're
a
not-
tax
We
problem.
don't like taxes.
Yeah.
especially the property tax.
So because it was a tax-centric comment and we talk about taxes so much, we wanted to do one other thing, read another one, and we thought we'd do something a little different. And this time we're just going to do a shout-out. So this is Cody Trailer
Hey, Cody.
from Hondo, and he said, "Hi, y'all. My name is Cody, and I recently opened up a new shop right outside of Hondo. I do anything auto or diesel related, 1 ton and smaller, specializing in diesel repair and performance. Give me a call at 830-423-2330 for a quote. Y'all stay blessed, and I will be posting my business card in the morning." So,
Nice.
yeah, we obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but we support local business.
That's right. We
Right.
try to support local business, and I always admire entrepreneurs and people, those small businesses.
Yeah.
Anytime anyone's trying to offer something that you would want to buy, I love it.
Yeah,
You know,
a good service, a good product.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I
good
just
luck.
love any voluntary exchange, really.
Good luck, Cody. And for our other listeners, keep posting on Nextdoor. You never know. Maybe you'll get a shout out as well. So I guess
Yeah.
that's it for us today. What do you
That's
say,
it.
Joe?
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Good
Thanks
night.
for listening.
All right.